The Bhagavad Gita Chapter 6, the Yoga of Self-Control. Lord Almighty said, the person who without relying on the fruit of the labor carries out his duty should be considered as a yogi, and he should be called a sannyasi. Just by relinquishing the duty, one does not become a yogi or a sannyasi. Arjun, what is known as sannyas of the worldly ties, you can also consider as a yoga, because anyone who cannot get rid of sankalp, resolution to follow the desire, cannot become a yogi. The person who wants to practice would become a yogi should carry out his duty without attachment to the results. And for a yogi, his ability to give up making any sankalp, any resolution, is his greatest advantage. When a person neither gets attached to his deeds nor to worldly pleasures of the senses, and when he breeds no desire, he is known as yoga rude, one who practices yoga. It is desirable that a human being always strive to achieve salvation. He should never indulge and get into decadence. Man is in fact his own enemy. Likewise, he can also be his own friend. The human being who has conquered the body, including the senses and the mind, is his own friend. But the person who has not conquered the body, senses and mind is his own enemy. In pleasure or in pain, in summer or in rain or in winter, in respect of the disrespect, the person whose mind bears no agitation to attachment is a person whom Atma has attained self-realized freedom, and his mind is always creatively engaged in the Almighty. His wisdom teaches him that nothing really is important except the Almighty. The person whose spirit is replaced with wisdom and science, whose intentions are beyond any blemishes, who has thoroughly conquered his senses, and for whom dust, stone, or gold are all alike, it is said that such a yogi is complete, or, in other words, he has realized God. He is the greatest among human beings. He is unselfish and not interested in anything selfishness. He is interested only in the good of everyone. He does not distinguish between friend and foe. He treats all alike, virtuous and the sinners. The person who keeps complete control over his body, including the senses and his mind, he who does not live on the vain hopes and is free from greed, is a yogi, a true yogi. He should often seek a solitary place and meditate continuously with his devoted mind about the marvels of the Almighty. He should select a sacred place and spread on it kusha, asan, deer skin and fabric. The place should neither be very high nor it should be low, and it should be stable. He should sit straight and control completely the actions of his senses. Keep in mind, in a stable condition, he should practice yoga to achieve purity of mind. With a straight posture, he should keep his upper body, neck and head relaxed and motionless, and fix his gaze on the front of his tip of the nose without looking in any other direction. Observing brahmacharya, who observes celibacy free from any fear, the yogi with a mind full of peace that is alert should meditate on my manifestations. The yogi with full controlled mind, constantly making efforts with his soul to be fully absorbed in my manifestations, achieves the rare peace which resides only in me, the Almighty. Arjun, this yoga cannot be realized by anyone who eats too much or who eats too little, nor by one who sleeps excessively, nor one who doesn't sleep at all. The yoga which eradicates unhappiness altogether can be achieved only by someone who eats what is necessary and sleeps or keeps awake only as required by the body. He carries out only such actions as his duty demands. When he feels the mind is in complete control and it stabilizes in the meditation of the Almighty, when there remains no animal desire to enjoy worldly objects, it is said that is the status of the person who becomes a yogi and is unaffected by all worldly affairs. Just as in a place where there is an oil lamp that does not flicker at all, the same simile applies to a yogi engaged in meditation about the Almighty. Purified by the practice of yoga and having achieved the state where the mind becomes stable in Lord's manifestations, the practitioner perceives the presence of the Almighty and remains satisfied with his devotion. Beyond the bounds of the senses, realized only by potent intelligence, unending joy becomes a part of the yogi who makes his mind stable in the attributes of the Almighty. When attaining the divine advantage of realizing God, one considers that there can be no greater blessing, and one achieves a state when deep sorrow or anguish cannot disturb him at all. That which is unattached with the sorrowful world and that which is known as yoga needs to be experienced. It is one's divine duty to practice such yoga with enthusiasm, patience, and decisive interest. When the desire originating from one's vows are given up and the sense and sensual objects are fully controlled when one is gradually starting to stabilize one's own mind with patient wisdom in the thoughts of the Almighty. During this time, he should not brood over anything else. The unstable and restless mind wanders among the various worldly objects, and the practitioner must shift his mind from these objects repeatedly and should try to stabilize it in the manifestation of the Almighty. The person whose mind has become peaceful in all respects and whose Rajogun, the mode of passion of material nature, has quietened by making efforts to achieve oneness with the Almighty. This yogi accomplishes genuine, exquisite joy. That virtuous yogi, engaging his mind in the prominence of the Almighty, continuously experiences the joy of realizing the Almighty. The person who through yoga maintains equanimity is able to experience the presence of the Almighty in all things. He is also able to see all beings in the Lord Almighty. The person who finds me, the Almighty, in all living beings, and who is able to see all living beings in my all-pervading form, becomes the person for whom I am never invisible. He is able to see me at all times. The person who gets into a constant mode of worshipping the omnipotent and omnipresent Vasudev is the yogi who, while performing all the various deeds, in fact dedicates all his performances to me. The person whose attitude towards all beings is constant and the same as towards his own personal self, and he who finds no distinction between happiness and sorrow is the yogi who is considered best among yogis. Arjun said, Madhusudan, the yoga which you have defined is maintaining the steady attitude of the mind amidst diverse situations. According to me, due to fickle nature of the mind, is very difficult, because in this mind is extremely capricious and vacillating. It is equally strong and obstinate. Therefore, I consider controlling the mind is as difficult as stopping the air or the wind. Lord Almighty said, Mahabhav, there is no doubt that the mind is extremely fickle and difficult to control. But with continuous practice of unattachment, with continuous effort, it can be controlled. For the person who is unable to control his mind, yoga is unachievable. But the person who has controlled his mind can attain yoga easily with constant efforts and practice. This is my considered opinion. Arjun said, Shri Krishna, what happens to the person who has devotion towards you but is not disciplined enough with his mind, and his mind drifts away from yoga, and who is not in a position to achieve the state of self-realization? What happens to his state? Mahabhava Krishna, such a seeker who is lost from the divine path of Almighty, what happens to him? Defeated from both sides, does he end in a disaster? Shri Krishna said, you are the only one. Arjun said, who can clarify this doubt of mine? The Lord Almighty said, Parth, such a person is neither ruined in this world nor after his death. Because, dear Arjun, the person who follows the path of salvation, of the soul of realizing Almighty, is never degraded. The unfulfilled person reaches the abode of noble and virtuous, and after residing there for many long years, is born again in the families of respectable people who follow the path of purity. In other words, instead of taking birth in an average family, he is born to a family of enlightened and wise. Indeed, such a person, such a birth is rare achievement for an average human being. Gathering there the sanskars of the great wisdom, he achieves yoga of constant attitude with much devotion but without much effort. Enthused with the efforts and effects of this yoga, he makes even greater efforts to attain realization of the Almighty than even before. The yoga brushed person is propelled by the previous practices and is undoubtedly affected, undoubtedly attached, undoubtedly attracted, and his attitude transcends the ill effect of calm deeds with profit in mind, or result oriented, or is deeds done with selfish motive. But the yogi who is a practitioner and who is making best of efforts with the force and power of previous births becomes free from the sins during the current birth and soon achieves salvation. A yogi is superior to tapasvi, that yogi, and is also superior to the wise persons who have knowledge of shastras, sacred books, and is undoubtedly better than those who perform deeds with selfish ends in mind. Therefore, Arjun, you must become a yogi. Among the yogis, the one who worships me constantly with devotion is most dear to me. Thus ends chapter of Yoga of Self-Control.